In a fit of rage, I called the hotel where my wife, Jessica, was entertaining her affair partner. The words were stuck in my throat, bitter and acrid, as if uttering them would solidify the nightmare into reality. When the receptionist connected me to their room, I clenched the phone tightly, my knuckles whitening with the force. A deep, guttural anger bubbled up, eclipsing every other emotion. "Donnie," I said, my voice a low growl, "listen carefully. If her son dies before I talk to her, I will find you and kill you with my bare hands." There was silence on the other end, heavy and punctuated by the faint rustling of sheets. Then I heard him mumble something incoherent before handing her the phone. Her voice, so familiar yet dripping with a tone I hadn't heard in years, was casual. Mocking, even. "Yes," she said, as though she were answering a call from a telemarketer. "When you're done having fun with your boyfriend, please come to the hospital emergency room," I snapped. The silence on her end stretched for a second too long. I hung up without waiting for her response, my hand shaking as I slammed the receiver down. The hospital's fluorescent lights buzzed faintly, matching the noise in my head. My son, Ethan, was in critical condition after an accident, a fact that seemed to weigh less heavily on Jessica than her extramarital escapades. In that moment, I felt an explosive mix of fury, disbelief, and anguish. It wasn't just the betrayal, it was the timing, the audacity, the sheer heartlessness. How had I not seen it sooner? I paced the cold hospital waiting room, my mind racing. I replayed every moment of the last 6 months, the subtle changes in her behavior. Jessica's sudden work trips, her evasive answers, and the way she had started avoiding me, not with outright hostility, but with the dismissive indifference of someone who had already checked out of our marriage. Had it all been a lie? The years, the promises, the shared laughter? I stared at the double doors leading to the intensive care unit where Ethan lay, unconscious and hooked up to machines. My stomach churned. He was just a kid, and he needed his mom. But instead of being here for him, she was tangled in another man's sheets. The thought was unbearable. The nurse called my name, and I snapped out of my daze. "He's stable for now," she said gently, as though trying to cushion the blow of what might still come. "Thank you," I muttered, my voice hollow. I stepped into Ethan's room, the beeping of monitors the only sound. His pale face looked so fragile, a stark contrast to the lively boy I knew. I sat by his bed, holding his small hand in mine, vowing that I would protect him no matter what. And that meant confronting Jessica, not just as a husband, but as a father. Sitting by Ethan's hospital bed, I couldn't tear my eyes away from his face. His chest rose and fell in a shallow rhythm, each breath reminding me how close I'd come to losing him. My grip on his hand tightened as the rage inside me simmered, barely contained. How could Jessica not be here? This was her son, our son. What kind of person prioritizes their pleasure over their child's life? My phone buzzed on the chair beside me, pulling me from my dark thoughts. It was Jessica. Finally. "Hello?" I answered, my voice colder than I intended. "David," she said, her tone unnervingly calm. "I'm on my way to the hospital. I'll be there soon." "Spare me the pleasantries, Jess. I know where you were," I spat. A pause. Her silence was louder than any excuse she could have given. "Look, we'll talk when I get there," she said finally, her voice taking on an edge of irritation, as though I were the one being unreasonable. "Yeah, we'll talk." I hung up, my hand shaking. I had spent years excusing Jessica's behavior, brushing aside the little red flags. But now the truth was too glaring to ignore. The hotel call had ripped away the mask she wore, exposing a side of her I hadn't wanted to see. I thought about the countless nights I had stayed up late, worried about her sudden work commitments or distracted demeanor. I had chalked it up to stress, fatigue, anything but betrayal. But deep down, I knew. I just didn't want to admit it. Jessica arrived 30 minutes later, her entrance as nonchalant as if she were stepping into a casual meeting rather than the hospital room where her son lay fighting for his life. She was dressed impeccably, of course, hair done, makeup flawless, wearing the same red dress I'd seen her leave the house in earlier that day. She glanced at Ethan briefly, her expression unreadable, before turning to me. "What happened?" she asked, as though the details of our son's accident were a minor inconvenience. My blood boiled. I stood up, keeping my voice low so as not to disturb Ethan. "What happened? You want to know what happened? While you were busy with your boyfriend, our son was hit by a car." Her face twitched, but she quickly masked it with a neutral expression. "I wasn't with anyone." "You're being dramatic." "Dramatic?" I hissed, stepping closer to her. "I called your room, Jessica. I spoke to him. Don't insult my intelligence." For a moment, I thought I saw guilt flash across her face, but it was gone as quickly as it appeared. Instead, she rolled her eyes and crossed her arms. "Fine," she said, her voice dripping with disdain. "Yes, I was with Donnie. But don't act like you're some saint, David. This marriage has been dead for years. I'm not the only one to blame." Her words hit me like a slap. "Not the only one to blame?" I repeated incredulously. "Are you seriously standing here, in front of our son, justifying your affair?" Jessica scoffed, looking away. "I don't owe you an explanation. You're not perfect either, David. Always working, always too tired to even notice me. Donnie actually makes me feel alive, something you haven't done in years." The sheer audacity of her words left me speechless. For years, I had worked long hours to provide for our family. I had sacrificed so much to ensure she and Ethan had everything they needed. And now she was using my hard work as an excuse for her betrayal? "You're unbelievable," I said finally, my voice shaking with anger. "I've been killing myself for this family, and you have the nerve to act like you're the victim?" Jessica shrugged, her nonchalance infuriating. "Believe what you want, David. But maybe if you'd paid more attention to me, this wouldn't have happened." It took every ounce of self-control I had not to explode. "This isn't about me," I said through gritted teeth. "This is about you. You made a choice, Jessica. And now you have to live with the consequences." Her face hardened. "And what exactly are you going to do about it?" she challenged, her tone daring me to act. For a moment, I didn't answer. My mind raced with possibilities, each one darker than the last. But then I looked at Ethan, lying so still and vulnerable in the hospital bed. This wasn't just about me or Jessica anymore. This was about him. "I'm going to make sure Ethan is okay," I said finally, my voice steady. "And after that, we'll see where we stand. But don't think for a second that I'll let you off the hook for this." Jessica smirked, as if she'd won some unspoken battle. "Do whatever you need to do, David. Just remember, you're not exactly a prize yourself." With that, she turned her attention back to her phone, scrolling as though nothing had happened. I sat back down by Ethan's bed, my hands trembling with a mix of anger and despair. The woman I had married, the woman I had once loved more than anything, was gone. And in her place was a stranger, a cold, selfish stranger who cared more about her own desires than the family we had built together. As I held Ethan's hand, I made a silent vow: I would protect him from her, from this toxic mess she had created. No matter what it took, I would make sure he had the life he deserved. The hours crawled by as I sat beside Ethan's bed. Jessica had retreated to the waiting room, muttering something about needing space. I didn't care. Let her have all the space she wanted. I needed her out of my sight before I said, or did, something I couldn't take back. Ethan stirred slightly, his eyelids fluttering, and my heart leapt. I leaned in closer, squeezing his hand gently. "Ethan, buddy, I'm here," I whispered. His eyes opened briefly, glazed with confusion and fatigue. Dad, he croaked. I'm here, I said again, brushing a hand through his hair. You're safe. Just rest, okay? You're going to be fine. He nodded weakly before his eyes drifted shut again. Relief washed over me, but it was fleeting. The reality of the situation loomed over me like a storm cloud. Ethan's recovery was only the beginning. I still had to deal with Jessica and the wreckage of our marriage. I stepped out into the hallway, needing a moment to clear my head. The hospital was eerily quiet, the faint hum of machinery the only sound. My phone buzzed in my pocket, startling me. I pulled it out, half expecting it to be Jessica texting me some snide comment. But it wasn't Jessica. It was my brother, Mike. Hey, I said, keeping my voice low. David, what the hell is going on? Mike's voice was sharp, concerned. I got your message about Ethan. Is he okay? He's stable, I said, running a hand through my hair. But it's been a lot. Do you need me to come down there? For a moment, I considered it. Mike had always been my rock, the one person I could count on no matter what. But this wasn't just about Ethan's accident. This was about Jessica, and I wasn't sure if I was ready to share that part of the story yet. No, I said finally. We're managing. I'll keep you updated. All right, Mike said, though I could hear the hesitation in his voice. Call me if you need anything, okay? Anything at all. Thanks, Mike. I will. I hung up and leaned against the wall, my mind racing. I had always prided myself on being the kind of man who could handle anything, who could keep his family together no matter what. But now, for the first time, I felt like I was losing control. Jessica's betrayal was a knife to the gut, and the wound wasn't just emotional, it was personal. I thought back to the early days of our marriage, the laughter, the shared dreams. How had we gone from that to this? The sound of heels clicking against the tile floor pulled me from my thoughts. Jessica appeared at the end of the hallway, her phone in hand, her expression as cold as ever. David, she said, her tone clipped. We need to talk. I crossed my arms, keeping my face impassive. Talk, then. She glanced around, clearly annoyed by the setting. Not here. Let's go outside. Reluctantly, I followed her out to the hospital courtyard. The night air was cool, a stark contrast to the tension radiating between us. Jessica lit a cigarette, something I hadn't seen her do in years, and took a long drag before finally speaking. Look, she said, exhaling a cloud of smoke. I'm not going to apologize for what happened. Of course you're not, I said bitterly. Her eyes narrowed. Don't interrupt me. You think you're some kind of martyr, but you're not. I've been miserable in this marriage for years, David. Years. And if I found someone who made me feel alive again, that's not entirely my fault. I stared at her, my disbelief morphing into a simmering fury. Are you seriously trying to justify cheating on me? On our family? While your son is lying in a hospital bed? Jessica sighed, as if I were the one being unreasonable. You don't get it. Donnie, he listens to me. He cares about me. You've been so wrapped up in your work and your own world that you haven't even noticed how unhappy I've been. You're unbelievable, I said, my voice rising. Do you hear yourself? You're blaming me for your choices. You're the one who stepped out, Jessica. Not me. She rolled her eyes, taking another drag of her cigarette. Maybe if you'd been a better husband, I wouldn't have needed to look elsewhere. Something inside me snapped. You're pathetic, I said, my voice low and steady. You've destroyed everything we built together, and for what? For some guy who probably doesn't even care about you beyond the thrill of sneaking around? Jessica smirked, and the sheer audacity of it made my blood boil. Say what you want, David. But at least Donnie makes me happy. Can you say the same about yourself? I clenched my fists, fighting the urge to lash out. You disgust me, I said finally. You don't even care about what this is doing to Ethan, do you? You're too wrapped up in your little fantasy to see the damage you've caused. Jessica shrugged, her indifference cutting deeper than any insult. Ethan will be fine. Kids are resilient. Her words were the final straw. I stepped closer, my voice trembling with controlled rage. Let me make one thing clear. I will do whatever it takes to protect Ethan from this mess. And if you think for a second that I'm going to let you drag him down with you, you're sorely mistaken. Jessica stared at me, her expression unreadable. For a moment, I thought she might actually feel something, guilt, regret, anything. But then she flicked her cigarette to the ground and crushed it under her heel. Do whatever you need to do, David, she said, her voice icy. I'm not going to beg for your forgiveness. I watched her walk away, her heels clicking against the pavement, and felt a strange mix of anger and relief. She was gone, for now. But the fight was far from over. As I stood there under the cold night sky, I made a silent vow, I would protect Ethan. And I would make sure Jessica's choices didn't destroy the one thing that still mattered, our son. The drive home that night was one of the longest of my life. I left the hospital after making sure Ethan was asleep and being monitored. Jessica stayed behind, although I doubted her presence had anything to do with genuine concern for our son. I needed space, to think, to process, to figure out what the hell I was going to do. The house was quiet when I walked in, its stillness almost eerie. It was the same home Jessica and I had built together, room by room, filled with memories of birthdays, holidays, and lazy Sunday mornings. But now, every corner seemed to mock me, whispering about the lies that had been living within its walls. I poured myself a glass of whiskey, letting the sharp burn steady my nerves. The living room light flickered softly, and I sank into the couch, staring blankly at the coffee table. My mind replayed the day's events on an endless loop. The hotel call. Jessica's indifference. Her audacious attempt to shift the blame. It wasn't until I noticed the blinking light on the answering machine that I snapped out of my thoughts. It felt almost surreal, who even left voicemails anymore? Still, I pressed the button, curious and cautious. The robotic voice announced, "Message received today at 7:46 p.m. Then, his voice. "Hey, Jessica. It's Donnie. Just wanted to check in. I know things got crazy with your kid in the hospital, but, you know, I'm here if you need me. Call me when you can, babe." I froze, the glass of whiskey suspended midair. The casual tone, the sickening familiarity of the word babe, it hit me like a punch to the gut. He sounded so comfortable, as if he had every right to be leaving messages on the phone we shared. I slammed the glass down so hard it cracked, but I didn't care. My anger was a living thing now, clawing its way to the surface. How dare he? How dare she? My phone buzzed on the table, pulling me back to the moment. It was Mike again. This time, I answered. "David," he said, his tone firm. "What's going on? I know you said you're handling it, but something doesn't sit right. Talk to me." I took a deep breath, the words sticking in my throat. Finally, I said, "She's cheating on me, Mike." The silence on the other end was deafening. "You're sure?" he asked finally. "Positive," I said bitterly. "I caught her. She doesn't even deny it. She's been seeing some guy named Donnie, and get this, he had the nerve to leave a message on our phone." Mike let out a low whistle. "Damn, man. I don't even know what to say. Are you okay?" "Define okay," I said, running a hand through my hair. "Ethan's in the hospital, my marriage is a sham, and I've got some idiot thinking he can play dad while I'm still breathing." "Listen," Mike said, his voice steady. "You need to lawyer up. Don't wait. Protect yourself and Ethan. If she's this reckless, she could do serious damage, financially, emotionally, you name it. He was right, of course. Mike always was. But hearing the words made it all too real. I wasn't just facing a betrayal, I was facing the possible end of everything I thought I knew. I'll call someone in the morning, I said finally. Good, Mike said. And David? Don't let her get in your head. She'll try to twist this, make you doubt yourself. Don't let her. I won't, I said, though I wasn't sure I believed it. After we hung up, I sat there in the silence, the weight of Mike's words pressing down on me. I knew I needed to act, but part of me felt paralyzed, as if acknowledging the situation would make it even more unbearable. Then, as if on cue, the front door opened. Jessica walked in, her heels clicking against the hardwood floor. She looked surprised to see me. Didn't think you'd still be up, she said casually, setting her purse down. Didn't think you'd still be pretending this marriage isn't over, I shot back. She froze for a moment, her mask slipping just enough for me to see the flicker of annoyance. What's that supposed to mean? It means I heard your boyfriend's voicemail, I said, my voice cold. On our machine. Jessica's eyes narrowed. You went through my messages. I laughed, a harsh, humorless sound. Don't even try to spin this, Jessica. He called our house, on our phone. Don't act like I'm the one in the wrong here. She crossed her arms, her expression hardening. You're making a big deal out of nothing. Donnie was just checking in. It's not like it's a crime. Checking in? I repeated, incredulous. While your son is lying in a hospital bed? Do you even hear yourself? Her jaw tightened, but she said nothing. You've done a lot of awful things, Jessica, I continued, my voice trembling with anger. But this is a new low. Do you even care about Ethan? Or am I the only one in this house who does? Don't you dare question my love for my son, she snapped, her voice sharp. Then start acting like his mother. I shouted, my voice echoing through the room. Jessica stared at me, her eyes cold and calculating. You're so self-righteous, David. Always playing the victim. Maybe if you'd been half the husband I needed, none of this would have happened. I shook my head, disbelief washing over me. You know what, Jessica? Keep telling yourself that. Keep blaming me. But the truth is, you're just a selfish, heartless. Careful, she interrupted, her tone icy. No, I said, stepping closer. You don't get to silence me anymore. This is on you. All of it. She stared at me for a long moment before grabbing her purse. I'm not doing this with you right now. Of course you're not, I said bitterly as she walked out the door, slamming it behind her. The house fell silent again, but this time, it felt less like home and more like a battleground. I knew one thing for certain, whatever came next, I was done letting Jessica call the shots. The slam of the door echoed long after Jessica had left. The sound seemed to rattle through me, a reminder of just how broken things had become. For a moment, I stood in the middle of the living room, fists clenched, trying to keep myself from falling apart. This wasn't the life I'd signed up for. It wasn't the marriage I'd fought so hard to protect. But now, it was time to stop fighting for her and start fighting for what really mattered, Ethan and myself. The next morning, I called Mike again. You were right, I said, skipping pleasantries. I need a lawyer. Do you know anyone good? Mike didn't hesitate. Yeah, I know someone. Top notch. I'll send you his number. It was strange, how the decision to call a lawyer felt heavier than catching Jessica in her lies. Maybe it was the finality of it. Once I spoke to someone, there was no going back. This wasn't just a rough patch in our marriage, it was the end. But I couldn't afford to waste time second-guessing myself. I dialed the number Mike gave me, and within minutes, I was on the phone with a calm, professional voice on the other end. His name was Richard Lawson, and he didn't sugarcoat anything. "David, I've seen cases like yours plenty of times," he said. "First things first, we need to establish your priorities. Custody arrangements, financial protections, and ensuring your son's well-being. Are you ready to take that step?" "Yes," I said firmly. "I don't think I have a choice." "Good," Richard said. "Let's meet tomorrow and get started." After the call, I sat back, feeling a mix of relief and dread. I was finally taking control, but the road ahead was daunting. I wasn't just dealing with Jessica's betrayal, I was unraveling an entire life. Jessica returned home late that night, reeking of cheap perfume and vodka. She stumbled through the door like she didn't have a care in the world, her heels clicking against the floor. "Where've you been?" I asked, my tone even but cold. She smirked, leaning against the wall for balance. "Out. With Donnie?" I pressed. Her smirk turned into a scowl. "None of your business." "You're unbelievable," I said, shaking my head. "You think you can just waltz in here, acting like nothing's wrong? Like you haven't destroyed this family?" Jessica rolled her eyes, brushing past me. "Oh, spare me the lecture, David. You're not some saint. You're just mad because you're not in control anymore. That did it." I stepped in front of her, blocking her path. "Control? Is that what this is about for you?" "No, Jessica. This is about respect. About the vows you threw away like they meant nothing." She sneered, her eyes glinting with defiance. "You want respect? Then maybe you should have earned it." I took a deep breath, forcing myself to stay calm. "I've had enough of this. I've already contacted a lawyer. You can either start cooperating, or you can make this harder on yourself. Your choice." Her face faltered for a split second, the mask slipping. Then, she laughed, a bitter, hollow sound. "A lawyer, huh? Fine. Let's see how far you get. But don't think for a second you're taking Ethan away from me." "Watch me," I said, my voice steady. "I'll do whatever it takes to protect him from this mess you've created." Jessica didn't reply. She stormed upstairs, slamming the bedroom door behind her. The next morning, she was gone before I woke up, leaving only a half-empty bottle of wine on the counter as evidence of her presence. I didn't care where she'd gone. My focus was on Ethan. The meeting. Later that day, I met with Richard at his downtown office. He was sharp and efficient, his questions direct but necessary. "Have you documented her behavior?" he asked, tapping his pen against a notepad. "Not yet," I admitted. "Start now," he said. "Texts, voicemails, anything that shows neglect or instability. The more evidence we have, the stronger your case will be." "Got it," I said, feeling a new sense of purpose. "And one more thing," Richard added. "Stay calm. Don't let her provoke you. Any outburst could be used against you in court." I nodded, his words sinking in. It was solid advice, but it wouldn't be easy. Jessica had a way of getting under my skin like no one else. When I returned home, I began combing through everything: emails, phone records, even social media. It didn't take long to find damning evidence. Photos of Jessica and Donnie at some bar, laughing like they didn't have a care in the world. A string of flirtatious texts from him, complete with heart emojis. I saved everything, my resolve hardening with each new piece of evidence. Jessica's next move. A week later, Jessica showed her hand. She came home in the middle of the day, her face flushed with anger. "What the hell is this?" she demanded, waving a stack of papers at me. I glanced at them. "Divorce papers," I said calmly. "You're serious?" she asked, her voice rising. "Dead serious," I replied. This marriage is over, Jessica. It has been for a long time. She scoffed, throwing the papers onto the table. You think you're so righteous, don't you? Well, guess what? You're not getting full custody of Ethan. I won't let you. Good luck proving that in court, I said, my voice steady. I've got plenty of evidence to show who the unstable parent is. Her eyes narrowed, but she didn't say anything. Instead, she grabbed her purse and stormed out again, slamming the door so hard it rattled the windows. I sat down, feeling a strange mix of exhaustion and satisfaction. The battle was far from over, but for the first time in months, I felt like I was in control. Jessica didn't come home that night, and for once, I didn't care. The silence in the house felt like a blessing. With Ethan staying another night in the hospital under observation, I finally had time to reflect without her poisonous presence clouding everything. I sat in the living room, flipping through Ethan's photo albums. Pictures of his first birthday, his first trip to the beach, and countless candid moments reminded me of what really mattered. Whatever Jessica thought, this wasn't about revenge, it was about protecting Ethan from the mess she had made of our lives. As I closed the album, my phone buzzed. It was a message from Mike. Keep your head up. If you need anything, I'm here. I replied with a simple, thanks, and put the phone down. People like Mike reminded me that not everyone was as self-serving as Jessica. The calm before the storm. The next morning, I went to the hospital to pick up Ethan. Seeing him smile, albeit weakly, filled me with relief. Dad, where's Mom? He asked as I buckled him into the car. She's busy, I said, trying to keep my voice neutral. But I'm here, and we're going to have a great day. He nodded, too tired to question further. On the drive home, I made a silent promise to him, no matter how ugly things got with Jessica, I'd make sure he felt safe and loved. When we got home, Ethan went straight to his room to nap. I made some coffee, savoring the rare moment of peace. But it didn't last long. Around noon, the front door slammed open and Jessica stormed in, her face a mask of fury. Are you insane, David? She barked, throwing her purse onto the couch. Good to see you too, Jessica, I said dryly. She marched up to me, her finger jabbing the air. You served me divorce papers without even talking to me? And now you're trying to take Ethan from me? Who the hell do you think you are? I set my coffee down, meeting her gaze. I'm the father who actually cares about Ethan's well-being. Something you clearly can't claim anymore. Her jaw tightened. You don't get to decide that. I'm his mother. I have just as much right to him as you do. Really? I said, my voice rising. Because from where I'm standing, you've been more focused on your boyfriend than on your own son. Jessica flinched but quickly recovered. Don't you dare use Ethan to play the victim here. You've always been jealous, David. Always paranoid that I'd find someone better than you. I laughed bitterly. Better than me? Jessica, you found Donnie. A guy who's so amazing, he doesn't even have the guts to show his face around here. Real winner. Her face flushed with anger. At least he listens to me, unlike you. Maybe if you'd been half the man he is, I wouldn't have needed someone else. That's rich, I shot back. Blaming me for your cheating? Classic Jessica. You've never been able to take responsibility for anything, have you? The argument escalated, our voices echoing through the house. I hated that Ethan might hear us, but Jessica wasn't leaving me much choice. Finally, I stepped back, taking a deep breath. This isn't going anywhere, I said, my voice calmer. We'll let the courts decide. Until then, stay out of my way. Jessica sneered. You think this is over? It's not, David. Not by a long shot. She grabbed her purse and stormed out, slamming the door behind her. A disturbing revelation. Later that afternoon, while Ethan was playing quietly in the living room, I went to check the messages on the answering machine. I wasn't sure what I expected, another careless voicemail from Donnie, maybe, but what I found shook me to my core. "Jessica, it's Donnie," the message began. His voice was lower, more serious than before. "Listen, I think we need to talk. David's not as dumb as you said. If he finds out about the money, it's game over. Call me." I played the message again, my heart pounding. Money? What money? The pieces began to fall into place, each one more horrifying than the last. Jessica wasn't just cheating, she was hiding something. Something big. I grabbed my laptop and logged into our joint bank account. Everything looked normal at first glance, but then I noticed a series of large withdrawals over the past few months. Thousands of dollars, all funneled into an account I didn't recognize. My hands trembled as I scrolled through the transactions. The dates lined up perfectly with Jessica's business trips and other suspicious outings. I sat back, my mind racing. What had she done? Was she stealing from our family to fund her affair? Or was it something worse? The breaking point. The next time Jessica came home, I was ready. She walked in like nothing had happened, tossing her keys onto the counter. "I'm here for Ethan," she said casually. "No, Jessica," I said, stepping into her path. "You're here to explain this." I held up a printout of the bank statements, watching her face pale. "Where did that money go?" I demanded. Her eyes darted around the room, searching for an escape. "It's none of your business," she said finally. "None of my business?" I repeated, my voice rising. "You've been draining our account behind my back. Do you even care what this is doing to Ethan?" "Don't bring him into this," she snapped. "Oh, he's already in it," I said. "And so am I. So start talking, Jessica. Where's the money?" She hesitated, then squared her shoulders. "It's gone, okay? I needed it for things." "Things?" I said, my voice dripping with disbelief. "Don't insult me, Jessica." "What things?" She didn't answer. Instead, she grabbed her purse and tried to push past me. But this time, I didn't let her off the hook. "If you walk out that door without explaining yourself, I'll make sure the court knows everything," I said. She stopped, her back to me. For a moment, I thought she might actually tell the truth. But then she turned, her face hard and defiant. "You don't scare me, David," she said. "You never have." With that, she walked out, leaving me standing there, more determined than ever to uncover the full extent of her lies. The next morning, I started piecing everything together. Donnie's voicemail about the money, Jessica's suspicious behavior, and the missing funds. There was no way this was just about an affair. Jessica was hiding something far worse. I decided it was time to confront Donnie directly. Tracking him down wasn't hard. He worked as a manager at a car dealership a few towns over. Armed with a printout of the bank statements and Donnie's voicemail saved on my phone, I drove there, ready to finally get answers. The dealership was busy when I arrived, salesmen buzzing around customers like flies on a carcass. I spotted Donnie immediately, a wiry guy in his mid-30s with a slicked-back haircut and a cocky smirk that made my blood boil. He didn't see me until I was standing right in front of him. "Donnie," I said, my voice cold. He froze, his smirk fading as he recognized me. David, right? Jessica's husband?" I didn't bother with pleasantries. "We need to talk. Now." He hesitated, glancing around like he was weighing his options. Finally, he nodded and led me to his office. Once we were inside, I shut the door and got straight to the point. "What's going on with the money?" Donnie's face turned pale. "I don't know what you're talking about," he stammered. I pulled out the printouts and slapped them onto his desk. Don't play dumb. You left me a voicemail. If he finds out about the money, it's game over. Ring any bells? He stared at the papers, his hands fidgeting nervously. Look, man, I don't want any trouble. Too late for that, I snapped. Start talking. Now. Donnie sighed, running a hand through his greasy hair. Fine. Jessica's been funneling money to me for a business deal. She said it was her savings, and she wanted to keep it private. What kind of deal? I demanded. He hesitated, then muttered, an investment. In a new property. She said you wouldn't approve. I narrowed my eyes. You're lying. That money wasn't hers to give. And if you think I'm going to let this slide, you're dead wrong. Donnie's demeanor shifted. His nervousness turned into anger. Listen, man, I don't know what's going on between you two, but you need to back off. Jessica and I. Jessica and you what? I interrupted, leaning forward. You think you're her knight in shining armor? Newsflash, Donnie, she's using you just like she's been using me. He clenched his jaw, but before he could respond, I stormed out of the office. There was no point wasting time on him. I had bigger problems to deal with. The legal counterstrike. Back at home, I called Richard, my lawyer, and updated him on what I'd discovered. Good work, he said. This strengthens your case significantly. We can use this to show financial misconduct and build a stronger argument for custody. I felt a flicker of hope. For the first time in weeks, it felt like the tide was turning in my favor. Jessica's desperation. Jessica came home that evening, looking more frazzled than usual. She barely made it through the door before I confronted her. Care to explain why our money is funding Donnie's so-called business ventures? I asked, holding up the printouts. Her face went blank, then hardened into a mask of defiance. I don't owe you an explanation, she said, crossing her arms. You don't owe me an explanation. I repeated, my voice rising. That money was for our family, Jessica. Not for your boyfriend's scams. She rolled her eyes, her tone dripping with sarcasm. Oh, please. Donnie's not scamming anyone. He's helping me get out of this suffocating mess of a marriage. Her words hit me like a punch to the gut. Suffocating? You mean the marriage where I worked to provide for our family while you snuck around behind my back? Jessica didn't even flinch. You're pathetic, David. Always playing the victim. Maybe if you weren't so boring, I wouldn't have needed someone like Donnie. That was it. I'd had enough. You're unbelievable, I said, shaking my head. But guess what? This ends now. I've already filed for divorce, and Richard is building a rock-solid case. You're not walking away from this unscathed. For the first time, Jessica seemed rattled. You think you can take Ethan from me? She hissed. I don't think, I know, I said firmly. You've shown zero regard for his well-being. The courts will see that, too. She didn't respond. Instead, she grabbed her car keys and stormed out, slamming the door behind her. A shocking development. The next day, I received an unexpected call from the bank. Mr. Harris, this is regarding the flagged transactions on your account, the representative said. We've discovered that several transfers were made to an offshore account under Jessica Harris's name. My heart sank. Offshore accounts? This wasn't just a case of Jessica funding Donnie's scams, she was hiding money. Thank you for the information, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. Please send me all the details you have. As soon as I hung up, I called Richard again. This changes everything, he said after I explained the situation. We can file an emergency motion to freeze her accounts and subpoena her financial records. She won't be able to hide anything. I nodded, a sense of determination surging through me. Jessica thought she could manipulate everyone and walk away unscathed, but she was about to learn that actions have consequences. The calm before the storm. That evening, as I tucked Ethan into bed, he looked up at me with his big, trusting eyes. "Dad," he said softly, "are you and Mom gonna stop fighting?" I swallowed hard, forcing a smile. "I don't know, buddy. But no matter what happens, I'll always be here for you. I promise." He nodded, closing his eyes, and I sat by his bedside until his breathing evened out. In that moment, I realized that no matter how messy things got, Ethan was the reason I had to stay strong. Jessica's lies, Donnie's schemes, the court battles, it all paled in comparison to my responsibility as a father. And I wasn't going to let him down. The day of reckoning came faster than I expected. The courtroom was packed, the air heavy with tension. Jessica sat across from me, her lawyer whispering something in her ear as she glared at me with barely concealed contempt. Ethan wasn't there, thankfully. I'd made sure he was safe with a friend. Whatever happened today, I didn't want him caught in the crossfire. My lawyer, Richard, stood confidently as the judge called the hearing to order. He laid out the evidence with surgical precision: the missing funds, Jessica's affair, her neglect of Ethan, and even Donnie's dubious offshore account connection. Jessica's lawyer tried to counter, spinning tales of my controlling behavior and claiming the withdrawals were for family investments. But the bank records didn't lie. Then came the moment that changed everything. Richard introduced Donnie as a surprise witness. The courtroom buzzed with whispers as Donnie shuffled in, his shoulders hunched and his face pale. "Mr. Carter," Richard began, "you've been involved with Mrs. Harris for some time now, correct?" Donnie nodded reluctantly. "Yeah. And during that time, were you aware that she was diverting family funds into your business ventures?" He hesitated, glancing nervously at Jessica. "I didn't know all of it was family money. She told me it was hers." Jessica shot him a glare that could have frozen fire. Richard didn't miss a beat. "Yet, you accepted these funds, knowing they were substantial and unexplained?" Donnie nodded again. "Yeah. And the offshore account?" At this, Donnie visibly squirmed. "That was her idea. She said it was for a safety net. In case things didn't work out." Richard turned to the judge. "Your Honor, this testimony confirms not only financial misconduct but also an intent to deceive. Mrs. Harris was actively undermining her family's financial stability for personal gain." The judge's gaze shifted to Jessica, who looked as though she might explode. Jessica's last stand. When it was her turn to testify, Jessica played her final card. "I did what I had to do because David was suffocating me," she shouted, her voice cracking. "He controlled everything, our money, our lives. Donnie was the first person who made me feel alive again." The courtroom fell silent. I stood up, unable to stay quiet any longer. "Alive?" I said, my voice steady but full of emotion. "While you were feeling alive, Jessica, Ethan was in the hospital. Alone. Scared. And you didn't even bother to show up." Her mouth opened, but no words came out. "This isn't about you feeling alive," I continued. "This is about your selfishness. Your complete disregard for anyone but yourself. You've betrayed me, stolen from us, and worst of all, you've failed Ethan. And he deserves better than that." The judge banged his gavel to restore order, but the damage was done. Jessica's carefully constructed facade had shattered. The verdict. After a brief recess, the judge delivered the ruling. Custody of Ethan was granted to me, with Jessica allowed supervised visitation. The court also froze her accounts, ordered her to pay restitution, and mandated counseling if she ever wanted unsupervised visits with Ethan. As the gavel struck, signaling the end of the hearing, I felt an overwhelming sense of relief. For the first time in months, it felt like justice had been served. Jessica stormed out without looking at me. Donnie trailed after her, looking more like a whipped dog than the smug partner in crime he'd been. A new beginning. That evening, I took Ethan to his favorite pizza place. Watching him laugh and eat without a care in the world reminded me why I'd fought so hard. As we drove home, he asked, "Dad, are things gonna be okay now?" I glanced at him in the rearview mirror, smiling. "Yeah, buddy. They are. I promise." Later, after tucking him in, I sat on the porch, reflecting on everything. Jessica's betrayal had nearly destroyed me, but it also taught me something valuable. I learned the importance of standing up for myself and protecting the people I love. I learned that resilience isn't just about enduring pain, it's about rising above it. Most of all, I learned that true strength comes from knowing your worth and refusing to let anyone take it from you. As I stared at the stars, a sense of peace washed over me. This wasn't the ending I'd imagined for my family, but it was the beginning of something better. And for the first time in a long time, I felt hopeful. Reflections. If you ever find yourself in a situation like mine, remember this: betrayal doesn't define you. It reveals the true character of the people around you and gives you the chance to reclaim your life. Move forward with strength, protect what matters, and never forget, you deserve honesty, love, and respect. Anything less isn't worth your time.